Countdown to Six Figures, Part 2. If this is your first time checking out the Gig Geezer, if you're a returning visitor of the Gig Geezer, hey, thanks for coming by. And if you would not mind, hit that subscribe button and give my content a thumbs up. Share my content among others, and I definitely welcome your comments in the section below. I'm actually traveling to a last mile gig delivery opportunity, but the timing is such that before I saw the notification, I started scribbling down some notes about what I was going to talk about with respect to the countdown to six figures. Now, I've not looked at these numbers, but these are the exact numbers because of the editing process. I'm closing in on like $91,500, and that's for gross earnings, generated revenue, whichever number you want to talk about before expenses. The bottom line is that I'm at right at about $91,500. Now, since I last put out something on this over the weekend, I went out part of Saturday for about 3.5 hours, and I think that was on this segment of the Gig Geezer. Sunday, I didn't do anything. I didn't go out at all. Fatigue caught up with me. May say old age, don't know. Monday was a holiday, and so not much of anything went on Monday. Yesterday was poor strategy on my part. Simple as that, poor strategy. In football analogy, I tried to go with the ground game, and I should have went play action. That's what I should have done. Well, so that brings us now to Wednesday, and the good thing about it is that I'm still on some type of trajectory to reach six figures for 2024. And while I'm at it, I've got my first live stream coming up Thursday, November 14th, at 10:15 Eastern Standard Time in the evening. That's right, 10:15 Eastern Standard Time in the evening. My guest will be Steve Rideshare Rodeo Johnson. Steve's out of the Denver, Colorado area. He is an advocate for independent contractors who are involved in the gig economy space. And Steve has been kind over the past year or so, you might as well say going on now 2 years, in which I've been a guest on various podcasts of his. So, what I want to talk about in this segment of the Gig Geezer is just some thoughts on what I've done right and what I've done wrong in terms of reaching now, or at least getting to a position where I can say I've reached six figures for now 2 consecutive calendar years. And so I'll start off with what I've done right so far in 2024. The first thing I could say is that I've continued to give myself options. I've continued to give myself options, be it gig apps, brokered opportunities, or cash game opportunities, or other 1099 opportunities. Now, the big unknown now is that we're in November, we're about in mid-November, and 2025 is right in front of us. And so we don't know we do not know what is in store for us next year. But what I can say for this year is that, yes, I've continued to give myself options. And that is something that you always have to do in business, is give yourself options. You can't be a one-trick pony and expect to make it in this business climate. In fact, the way the world has evolved, at least in my lifetime, you can't. In fact, this is something that I'll just share. I am old enough. I am in the baby boomer demographic. Okay, I've talked about that before, and in fact, I'm right in the middle. I'm on the younger end of the baby boomers, a generation that is now phasing out. One of the things that we were pretty much taught was that you went to school, you found yourself a profession, and you go there and you pretty much work until either they carry you out or you retire. Well, that all changed for me within 5 years of me earning my college diploma. I'm gonna give myself a little more space. The actual years is 3.5 years. I encountered my first layoff situation. And from there, I'm not gonna say I've been scrambling ever since. I've been scrambling ever since I got out the newspaper business, which meant that I've had to redefine myself multiple times. And so one of the things that I've learned in redefining myself multiple times is that you always have to give yourself options. You have to give yourself options. When I've done insurance work as an insurance agent, I've shared how I have my own agency. I've done my best when I've put the effort in being an agent as an independent agent, because I have more options than somebody who is a captive agent and can only do what their company allows for them to sell. And that's the same thing as I'll say it like this: in the sprinter/cargo van space, in the transportation and delivery space, you have to continue to give yourself options. The next thing is that I've not accepted just anything. In other words, I've said this for years now: accept less, earn more. Some scoffed at me for saying that, but guess what? There is truth to accept. Not just accepting anything. Sure, you can accept a lot of stuff, but when you accept just bottom buster stuff, when you just take anything that comes along, that means you have to do more. You have to depend on volume. And in the process of running a business, there are costs involved when you put yourself out there as much as you do. One term that I heard for the very first time about 6-7 years ago was work smarter, not harder. I'd never heard that term, but I understand what it means now. You maximize your opportunities by you want to do as much as you can and be as efficient as possible. So yeah, you may feel good having been busy throughout the day, but what did you do and yes, you can say at the end of the day, this is what I've done. But over the course of time, there are costs involved. There are costs involved, and there's cost from the cost of doing business. There's a cost on you physically and mentally and emotionally. And so that is something that I feel good about saying, how I've not accepted just anything. Now, could I do better? Yes. I know of someone who does a hell of a lot better than me, because he's put himself where he's given himself even more options, and at the same time, he's able to maximize more of what he does than I do. But there's always good to have some example to strive for. The next thought would be some semblance of smart business management. Now, business management, this is not my formal background. Yes, I had a minor in business, but but then again, you don't have to have an advanced degree in economics and finance or accounting in order to be a smart business person. Some of it is a matter of common sense. Some of it, if you want to be a real spiritual person, is listening to that still small voice. Whatever that guiding light is, that guiding principle. Some of the things that involve with smart business management is, for example, maintenance. Now, I've shown examples of maintenance with the van, and I know that that's not popular stuff when you show content on YouTube. What is popular is talking about how you made all this money, how you look doing all this money and all. I see the metrics, and I know that for me, my metrics aren't good in that regard. But maintenance maintenance has been one thing that has kept me going. Being able to, and of course, being in a position to do all that maintenance has kept me in the game. And it also helps, perhaps in my case, being able to do a lot of it myself. What are some of those examples? Well, now, earlier in the year, there was this example where that the piece that was under the hood went bad. I thought that I lost my transmission, but it turned out after putting in inserting my diagnostic device, it told me it was something else, and it was a $200 piece, something that I was able to replace in 10-15 minutes, but it saved me a lot of money and it kept me in the game. Then there was the front end where the control arm piece went out, but then while I had to pay somebody to do that, and I paid the guy to also redo my struts and shocks and ball joints, that was $1,400. Fortunately, I was in a position to take care of that. But then I ended up noticing there was some skipping in with the performance of the engine, and I realized then I had to do a tune-up, which meant changing spark plugs. I could have paid somebody, but I did it myself, okay? And I saved more money. But then the next big outlaying of money occurred a couple months ago. The sound that I kept hearing this year was the same wheel bearing that was replaced in 2023. The right front wheel bearing was going bad, and it had been yelling at me throughout the year. And so what I ended up doing, I thought it was the left side wheel bearing. I replaced that, and I kept still hearing. But then I kept hearing the sound, and then I realized that, hey, it was the right front wheel bearing. Well, I replaced that, but what I realized is I looked at the rotors, and there was a lot of wear on the rotors. So what I decided to do was replace the rotors. Of course, when you place the rotors, you replace the wheel bearings. You might as well just replace the front brake pads. They had already been replaced early this year, but I replaced them again. Well, when I completed all that work, guess what? This front end has sounded the best it has sounded since I bought this van. And even then, when I bought the van, there were some things that I said to myself about, I think there's something with the front end that needs to be looked at, or I need to monitor. Well, now I don't have those concerns. So I know that I talked for a couple minutes about that, but you gotta understand that there's always this reinvestment into yourself that you have to do as a business person. And so if you're not reinvesting in yourself, then you're not going to be in a position to do what you really want to do, or do what you need to do. So then what else? Spending money. Because I make money, I don't go around and just spend money on anything and everything. Because there are other things that in my situation, I've got a lot on my plate. And so for my situation, I know that I can't go off on the excesses of things until those situations are finally to a point where I can say that they've been resolved, and then I can maybe spend something on myself. Now, the last thing that I'm going to talk about, at least, so those are the three things, at least from a business management standpoint, that I think that have helped me. The reinvestment into the business in terms of maintenance, the repairs that I've made myself with the vehicle, with the van, and for that matter, the F-150, and then just spending, being wise with the spending. So what I'm going to do actually is break this segment up into another segment. So it's going to be a part 3 to this, because I've already talked for about 20 minutes into this segment, about a good 15 minutes or so into this segment of the Gig Geezer. So if you like the content that's been provided in this segment or in any other segment, hit that subscribe button, give my content a thumbs up, share my content among others, and I definitely welcome your comments in the section below. I'm Inwood Lane. As always, may your grind and may your hustle continue. All right, a couple of hours have passed since I last documented something towards this conversation about countdown to six figures. And so what I decided to do was go ahead on and share at least my own honest observation about what are some things that I've not done right during the year. And for as many options as I say I've given myself or have tried to put myself in a position for opportunities to come my way, I don't believe that I've really not, for as many of those as I've done, it still seems as if I've not done enough in terms of putting myself in a position for opportunities to come my way. And what I mean by that is, first of all, I don't like beating the pavements. I really don't like beating the pavements. I don't like knocking on doors. It's not about being afraid of rejection, because you experience rejection in many forms when you're out here. For example, when it comes to brokered opportunities, you put in a bid, either they're going to accept it or they're going to pass on it or just or tell you straight up, no, we reject it. So that's a form of rejection, and that's really the most common form of rejection that you're going to experience when it comes to being out here. But yes, I've gone out there and knocked on doors, and I've flipped my cards to people. People have asked me from time to time, what do I do? And yeah, but then I never hear back from them. And it's not like very rarely folk have given me contact information. They've asked for my information, but then they've not allowed me in return to ask for their information. It's kind of a strange thing though, but it does happen. So again, it's not so much as my being afraid of. I'm not afraid to knock on the doors. I did that as an insurance agent. In fact, one good example of me knocking on doors, there was a place that I'd gone to twice, and the second time I went there, they pretty much told me no, they weren't interested, blah blah blah. And then instead of me just going to my car and driving away, I noticed a business across the street. I had not gone there before. At least I don't recall. I did, but then I recall going there before, but then again, I decided to take another chance and go over there. And they were actually looking for somebody to quote them for their group insurance. And it was a larger business, and so back then, I don't know what it is now because I've not gone after group insurance in 15 years. But by them being the size that they were, which was once you have 51 or more employees, the protocol was that you had to get an agent of record letter. And an agent of record letter allowed you to submit quotes for that business. And they gave me one, and I got their business. And they were my client until they closed their doors about 3.5 years later. They were my golden calf. I mean, it actually turned things around for me. The conventional wisdom is that the no that you experience may be a yes on the next opportunity, something to that variation. So yes, as a result, there are certain stretches that I've noticed in which you become more reliant on one facet of your streams of income, streams of revenue. And that's something that I don't want to be, is to be over reliant on one specific revenue stream. But looking at the numbers, I've not done an effective job in replacing those apps or facets that are slow or have dried up or no longer no longer as productive for me. So then the next one is timing. Now, what I mean by that is you're always hoping that whatever move you make is going to be at the right time. But there are decisions that I've made that seemed rushed. And those decisions that I make that seemed rushed are ones that may result in me taking myself out of position for yet another opportunity. Now, your pockets are gonna your pockets, your checkbook, those bills are gonna oftentimes loom very prominently in your thinking, and those are good. And if you allow those to really dominate, they're gonna create unforced errors in your decision making. Or another way of thinking of it, thirst. It's going to create thirst. It's going to cause thirst to pervade. And when thirst pervades, guess what? You make a lot of bad decisions, at least in my opinion. Another one is what I would call it. It's study long, study wrong. Sometimes you see certain opportunities come up, and you're looking at it and you're calculating what you think you need to do, and then it's gone right before you even make a move on it. A good example of that occurred yesterday with me. Yesterday, I happened to see a brokered opportunity originating out of Augusta, which is about an hour from where I'm at even right now, and it was going to Charleston. The offer amount was $250. The mileage was 135 miles. Admittedly, if that were a year and a half ago, I probably would have jumped all on it and booked that load. Wouldn't even deal with attempting to negotiate for more money. But but what happens is you become accustomed to earning a certain amount on certain opportunities. You set obviously certain standards or certain expectations. And what I tried to do was get in contact with my assigned broker and try to get $300 for it. Well, I never get a hold of anybody. I called, I sent emails, and of course, in quick time, it was gone. So for me, that was an example of study long, study wrong. But that happens. And it happens to me a lot, really. The last one, with what I'm talking about with the study long, study wrong, certain decisions that you make, some of that falls under pride. You can talk about ego and greed, but it just falls under pride. And sometimes, yeah, I guess I say in concession, there are times that you have to take more losses than you're willing to take in order to keep moving. But I'm not there yet. So that's definitely a fall of mine. But then again, it may be a strength of mine because of where I'm at. It's a double-edged sword. That's what I'm getting at. And then, so summing that up, it runs contrary to what I'm talking about. But again, it's a double-edged sword. And so you have to find that balance. And that's a hard thing, but that's life. So hopefully you got something out of all this. Hopefully it may help you make better decisions, or it may be an inspiration. And if so, if you like the content that's been provided in this segment of the Gig Geezer or in any other segment of the Gig Geezer, hit that subscribe button, give my content a thumbs up, share my content among others, and I definitely welcome your comments in the section below. I'm Inwood Lane. As always, may your grind and may your hustle continue.